Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, I'm going to do a little bit of talk about Python coding and then kind of make a comparison with noding inside Blender using Sverchok Add-On. The other day, actually, I signed up for Blender Cloud again for 3 months just to get access to this course by Dr. Sybren, Scripting for Artists. This is a very good course I found. It's good for beginner, intermediate to quickly get into Blender Python or BPy, BPY, whatever you call it, and also get a little bit of knowledge about Python. It's actually a big subject, and then if you never do any programming, coding, it might be intimidating at first, but trust me, it shouldn't be that scary. I think around 6 years ago, I started to really dedicate myself to learn programming, and I'm using Blender to do that. And it was Blender 2.5 when I first started. I said to myself, I want to learn more about Python programming, and since Blender also comes with Python scripting, I found it very useful for me. Anyhow, I look at 5 videos so far, and then I didn't grasp all of them, but some of them I already know. But I found there's number 5 here. Collection is very useful. Collections. Basically, the idea is I really like the concept, so I want to talk about it and kind of make comparison inside Blender using Sverchok Add-On. If you were to do it using nodes. So let's jump into it. Let's switch to compositing, and I'm gonna have a Python console down here. See, this one gonna be Python console. This guy is gonna be the text editor for the Python script later. So file save as, just save it as sv Python comparison, or just say like Python collection. So this concept I found very useful. So basically, okay, let's have a look at our 3D scene. We have the default cube, lamp, and camera. And if we are using the collection, this is something new that I learned and I found it very useful. BPY data objects items. So I didn't know about this until last night, and this is actually like super useful. Basically, by using this in Blender, you can get the list of all the objects in the scene very quickly. So we know that we have a object type camera with name camera. We have object type mesh data cube with name cube, and then the lamp with name lamp. We can have like a multiple cube objects. We can also have like a multiple. Let's have some Suzanne. So we have a bunch of Suzanne, and then we have also a bunch of Taurus maybe. So we can actually list all of them, kind of like a deer, if you want to list all your directory using command prompt. So this gives you a list of all the objects. I found this super useful. I didn't know that we can do this. So I found this to be like a revealing. You can also do things like bpy.data.scenes and then items. Items is the key. See, you can also say like, I think lamp, and then items. Oh, actually there is no lamps. Oh yeah, lamps. There you go. You can quickly list the lamps this way, and by using these collections, you can get to the name and also get to the objects itself directly. So we know that if we use the bpy data objects by get to the name, for example, like to the cube, I am using control space and just get the default cube, and then use locations. We can get to the locations. We can also kind of make changes to the locations. That way, I'm just moving the objects like 5 unit up, I can reset it to 0, 0, 0. That's changing the location. We already know that. I talked about it in my previous video, but that's the basics. Here we are actually using Blender Python and really kind of get the list of all the objects in the scene, and we know we can quickly get into the name, and also we can quickly get into this data path. Okay, so how do we use it in the Python term? Let's say if we want to do like a hiding of objects very quickly, we can apparently do that. So let's try. Okay, hide.py or hideme.py. This is the script, and we want to use the numbering and also Python highlight. Here we're gonna use import bpy. We're gonna make this bigger. Let's kind of practice what I learned from the video Python scripting. This scripting for artists. I highly recommend this. Really, it's a good one. I pay like around $30 for that for 3 months. Blender Cloud, and I get access to all of these assets and library training. This one I'm still learning. So okay, collections. Okay. This one is super useful, I found, so I'm really excited to just talk about it a little bit more. So bpy.data objects item, we can apparently use this for name and object inside this guy. We can print it out, the name and the object. So remember, this list or this collections comes as a pair of the name and then the object access to the object path. So I can do it this way, run the script, and then I go to the system console, and we can get the list of our objects, the name, and the data path. Name and data path, very important. We can then do things like, let's say, listing stuff is useful, but it's more useful if we actually do something to the object attribute. Let's say we want to hide the objects. Okay, if you were to do it manually, normally you probably select an object and then you kind of hide it this way on and off, and you know that by doing that there's a history here that says, okay, bpy context objects hide. The property or the attribute is called hide, and making it true or false kind of make the object visible or invisible. There's also you can look at the attribute this way. You just hover over this guy and then you can see, okay, that's the hiding. Okay, you can, I believe you can also Control C and just copy the property, if I'm not wrong. No, apparently not in that case. Never mind. Anyhow, we know that we can get to the attributes that way. We can say, okay, object hide and make this true. Let's try this. Run script. Everything disappeared. See, everything is invisible. Try false. Run the script. Now everything is visible again. So cool. Okay, you can get all the objects and make it invisible and visible. That's kind of cool. I cannot, like maybe Blender artists say that, okay, you can also like select all and then just tap H, right? That's doing the same thing. Okay, that's not so useful. How about if we are like filtering it out, like if the name, if Suzanne is in the name, hide the object. Actually, it's not false, should be true. Okay, suddenly we can hide all objects with the name Suzanne, and let's reveal the head again. So that's pretty cool, right? Suddenly you have this ability to tell any objects to disappear or reappear. So that's Python scripting, and in regards to the collections, I found this to be like super useful. Actually, now I want to make a comparison with how to do it inside Sverchok using nodes. I found that from what I learned, to learn Python programming on my own, to understand nodes is actually really helpful for me. I don't know how other people do it. Maybe you probably understand codes in many different ways, but nodes for me it's very useful. So let's do it. Okay, let's just do it. Sverchok, and if we want to deal with objects in Sverchok, you're really gonna use object ID. These things, all these nodes allow you to quickly get into objects in the scene. And object ID selector is really the one that you want to use. Okay, let's use object ID selector. And Blender just crashes, that's okay. I already saved it. I'm just gonna restart Blender really quick. I save a lot, so it's never a problem. Sometimes it's frozen. So back to this guy, turn on Sverchok, new, and I like the themes just now. I think it's a flatty light. Okay, like I said, object ID selector. This guy gives you all the objects. I believe it's already give you all these options to filter out the objects by type, whether it's a lamp or it's like a camera, or is it like just mesh type, like this polygon data. And you can use the stethoscope and to get the list. So here, for example, objects type mesh give you the list of all this mesh type, like polygon mesh. If you specify it like, okay, I want it to be the lamp, it gives you the lamp if you update it. Okay, lamp. Or also you can switch to camera and then just update it here, you get to the camera. So that's okay, no problem, no biggie. You can, what if you want to do the hiding stuff, like just like this Python script? Can you do that? Apparently you can, and that's actually pretty easy in Sverchok. There is a object ID set. Just this guy, object ID selector, kind of give you the collection, just like this over here, BPY data objects items. But this one already filter out the mesh for you. So it even tell you there's like 16 objects in the scene. Okay, there you go, all the objects. And now we want to, let's say, by default, this object ID set will set the delta locations. We don't want to do that. We just want to play with the height, the attribute height. Okay, on and off visibility. For the values, it needs to be Boolean, right? Sverchok really doesn't have the Boolean stuff, but it has number like integer, or just use an integer 0 and 1. 0 means like false as well in Python. 1 it means true, so you can do that. You can use this 0 and 1 to make object visible on and off. So that's cool. If you want to use text, you can also use a formula. This formula is very powerful as well, but you just want to have like a true or false. You can do it this way. So this is how you do it using Sverchok, using nodes. Of course, you can do the same using animation nodes as well. For now, I'm just going to be using Sverchok. Okay, hiding objects on and off is cool, but again, this one is hiding everything. Right? You don't want that. You want to specifically hide certain object. Like in this case, okay, here with Python, we can already say for objects named cube, just hide it. You can do it this way, right? No problem. So what if you want to do it using nodes? Luckily, we already have a nodes called filter, object ID filter. So this guy is really similar to this, filtering it by name or whatever expression you have, this whatever condition. In this case, for name, okay, name. Let's say Suzanne, Suz. pipe it in here. So object from get a list of all objects and then filter it out, filter the name, and then set the height on and off. So just now I just hide the Susan head on and off, and we can change this to torus on and off, and we can also change this to cube, of course, on and off. Sometimes with Blender, usually the master, like the first objects usually has name, like just the name, like in this case cube. But if you make like a bunch of duplicates, it's gonna have like cube 001, 002, 003, and if you want to get to those you want to ignore the master, you can do this cube dot. By having cube dot, you're really only selecting the objects with a .000 numbers. Okay, so here's I just did it. So that's a quick trick. So now, okay, we have access to this guy this way, so that's pretty cool. You can hide it on and off very easily, just like using Python. So there is like no different. It's just for your own preference. As an artist, 3D artist, you have a way to use codes, Python code, and also a way to use nodes. I found this logic to understand the concept. You can use both of them faster, and you understand it's basically just getting the collection of all the objects and then make changes to the property or attributes. I think that's really like the basics. And when I first thinking, okay, you can use Python in 3D software like Maya, Houdini, Blender, and what is that for? You see, my first question is always that, what is that for, you know? But I realized that really this this is gonna be the basic. You can change any property for any objects in the 3D scenes really fast. That's what scripting, Python coding, and also if you are using nodes, it does it really well. And in particular case, in this case with Sverchok, because Sverchok is also very Pythonic, it's kind of the same logic. Okay, so let's do something more, like a quick little trick here. Let's say we're gonna change the location of this cube. Let's arrange this cube a little bit more tidy. We can type in, okay, the location. We know that the location will access the location of the cube. We can tell it, okay, use the like a line to arrange this cube. So very quickly, we know how many cube. We have 8 cube. We can arrange this cube. We can arrange it in any way we please, and you can also randomize it in any way we like. So if you really want to be like a more proficient with Python, you can actually study every nodes here. Every Sverchok nodes is actually Python code. You can look at the nodes and then you can study it, and you can understand Python a little bit better, and then try to type it yourself using the codes. Don't pick into it, just type the codes without cheating. That way you can learn Python a little bit better. Like it's gonna be so useful for you. And so here actually with a Python code, even such a simple code can allows you to do a lot of interesting thing. Here we are using this for pair of objects in this collections. For each one of them you found, you filter it out by name, and then you change the height properties either true or false. Here doing it using nodes is more or less the same. You can do a little bit faster, of course, because Sverchok already provides with all kind of nodes to do that. But in here, let's say if you want to do random, you need to use like import random, things like that. I think I'm more like proficient with nodes at the moment, but eventually if I want to learn a little bit more coding, and I can learn from nodes. just check the nodes source and then study that and then kind of borrow that into your code, and then you suddenly you learn both. Okay, so I found that very useful. So let's do the same thing with a Suzanne head. You want to tidy it up, just change this to Suzanne. Suzanne now is in the same place as the cube. We don't want that. We just maybe we want to move it down a little bit. You can also do that. Multiply scalar, just or vector add, just move it down a little bit. Don't randomize. So this is what we get. Suzanne head, randomize stepping. Oh, let's make it in the X. So nice and tidy. Suzanne head. Let's say we want to also do like rotations. By default, I think rotation Euler give you access to that. So get all the Suzanne head that we already filter out, and just use random vector. Random vector is like 3 value. How many Suzanne head? 7. Just randomize the head. It's pretty easy. Yeah, so I think that's kind of explain this Python coding and also using nodes, noding using Sverchok add-on a little bit better. I think comparing the two really kind of helped me to learn more about Python programming, and also as a bonus we learned to use node setup. This guy, I'll just call it like collection and attributes. I'm gonna share with you this setup. What else I can talk about? We can change the color very easily as well. So we can hide objects on and off very easily now. You know, before maybe it's a bit hard. You can keep chaining these objects. I think I found this very useful. Again, this is I think the topic is collections and object property or attributes. That's just that concept. If you are doing Python programming, it's very powerful. Let me try actually one more thing with this guy. Maybe a little bit over time, but it's okay. So let's say with this cube, we're gonna assign subdivision. So, and subdivision level can go up like that. And I'm gonna make a bunch of them. So all 5 cubes have this subdivision modifier already turned on. Okay, so now we want to select the cube, type in cube, and okay, on and off. Where's the cube? Oh, that guy over there. For the locations, I'm just gonna use a random vector. We know there's like 5 or 6 cube, which is now it's more like sphere because we use subdivision surface modifier. Cube number 7, we don't care, we just kill it. So we have 6 cube. Where is it? Okay, 6 cube, that's more like a sphere. Let's say we want to change the modifier very quickly. We can simply use this guy as well, object ID set, and then just get to the modifier. This guy, subsurf modifier, Control Alt Shift C will, and you can paste it. We don't need to worry about this guy. We just need to worry about the modifiers. Just plug in the objects, and suddenly you have access to the modifier this way. Change the subdivisions to 0 or 1, 2, 3, or go higher or lower. So I found that very handy and very cool. Again, we are only dealing like with collections of objects, how we can filter the objects, and how we can change the attributes in relations to the objects. We can get to the subsurf as well. So that's how you might do it. I think with Python you can do the same thing as well. You can really just get to the objects perhaps and get to the modifier, get to the objects, get to the modifier, subsurf level, just make it 0 for example, and run the script, and it says error because we don't need all this. Run the script again, same thing. So I found this is the most basic but the most useful for a lot of case if you're like a beginner Python user. Again, so the take of this is that if you are a computer graphic artist, you are a 3D artist and use program like Blender or other 3D package out there, don't be afraid of learning programming. So knowing a little bit of coding and even like nodings using Sverchok or maybe animation nodes, you can actually do a lot. This will make you work faster. Okay, just having these nodes, for example, you can share it with your friend. You can really do a lot. You can randomize the position. You can quickly change the rotations very quickly. You can change the subdivisions for each objects. That's how you do it. That's how I would think about like nodings. It's very useful for anyone, animators, whatever artist, you're a modeler. It's going to be so useful. And then by learning nodes, you can also learn about codes, vice versa, you know. But anyway, I think the collection itself is very useful, and then just this little scripting or little noding will help you. So thanks again for this inspiration by Dr. Sybren. I'm still learning all these videos. Yeah, I really recommend this one for you. If you want to do Python scripting, there's a lot of concepts that he teach. I think if we are comparing it with nodes, maybe it's more easier. It's a lot easier to understand. I don't know, maybe at some point I will have a course like this, but just talk about it as a nodes. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Hopefully it's useful. Let me know if you have any question, any suggestion. I'll try to answer it. So again, my Python scripting and my noding like knowledge is kind of maybe intermediate at the moment, so still learning. Someone said that in order to learn programming language, you need to at least know five programming language. For me, I try to learn programming like I think action scripting for Macromedia Flash. I actually kind of fail on that. JavaScript also kind of a little bit fail. I learned a bit about that, but it's hard. JavaScript and action scripting, it was failed for me. It's hard. And then as time goes on, I learned about Python. Python is actually very easy. Very artist friendly, and it's used a lot in many 3D packages and compositing, powerful compositing software. So really useful language. This day, currently, I'm learning also Apple Swift for Xcode and app development. Swift is kind of similar with Python, but it's more expressive and it's a bit like kind of you have to make everything correct. Python is a bit more friendly, I found, but both I really like Swift as well. But I also know other language like processing. I'll probably show it to you. Processing is, they say it's like a visual language for visual people. Processing built on Java or JavaScript, but it's actually, processing is actually not that easy. But processing actually, if you want to learn algorithm and then you want to do a lot of vector drawing, processing is very cool. And then we have the teacher like Daniel Schiffman here. That's amazing. Check out his YouTube channel and you can learn about coding. So processing is one language that I know and I found very useful. I actually at some point also learned about Notebox. Notebox is more like a nodes-based visual programming to generate vector. I also recommend Notebox. There is also Scratch. Scratch, if you want, you can learn Scratch. Also open source, very, very useful. This day you have other things. You have a lot of tools out there to learn programming. There is one more that I found very interesting. It's Chuck music programming. This one is a little bit weird and one of the weirdest one. You learn music and you also learn programming and coding. Chuck is actually a little bit more like C. It's very expressive and reactive. It's not easy, but I think this book by Ge Wang and other author is very, very useful. And I think they have also like some course, like a free one online you can learn. So music programming using Chuck is also kind of interesting. What else? Swift programming. Apple have Swift Playground on the iPad if you like, but that's kind of Swift. If you are doing Python, there's things like Pythonista, but I guess don't worry about it. My take on this is that if you want to learn coding, try all those languages that I just mentioned, okay? But the focus is to learn, I recommend you to learn Python. This one is very, very easy and useful because you can use it inside Blender and many, many other software. Don't think about making app yet using Python, don't worry about that. But being able to access like a 3D objects very, very quickly, you know, just like on and off, you know, make them visibility on and off. That's actually like a good basic starter for you. And remember, if you kind of find these codes hard, there's always like a comparison nodes that you can study. And if you found, okay, I want to do like a randomization, random vector, and I want to use all this noise, just like inside Sverchok, how to do it? You simply look at the source code because Sverchok is open source. Sverchok and animation nodes open source. You can look at the codes for each nodes and then kind of look at the nodes, study it, and then use it inside your Python script. Suddenly it's like all makes sense. And yeah, that's I guess how we can take advantage of nodes and to learn more about codes just for our workflow. Okay, so that's a lot of talk. Hopefully this is useful for you. Anyone who wants to learn to code or to nodes, you can use Blender and you will learn a lot. And hopefully you find this useful again. And thanks again for tuning in and supporting this channel. And give it a like, share it with your friends. Help me keep this channel going. Hopefully I can continue making useful videos in Blender. Okay, thanks again. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.